Hey friends, hey, I'm so excited to announce that Side Hustle Pro is officially part of the HubSpot Podcast Network family. That's right, your girl is on a network after 6 years of being independent. And if you don't know, HubSpot is the audio destination for business professionals. Make sure you check out shows like Being Boss with Emily Thompson or Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield, one of my personal favorites, and my new favorite, My First Million. All right. I am so excited to be a part of the network, you guys. So check out all of these shows and more at HubSpot.com/podcast network.
You're listening to Side Hustle Pro, the podcast that teaches you to build and grow your side hustle from passion project to profitable business. And I'm your host, Nicaila Matthews-Okome. So let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today in the guest chair, I have Codie Elaine Oliver. Cody is the CEO and co-founder of Black Love Inc., which is the premier 100% Black-owned partner for celebrating 360 degrees of Black love. The media company, founded by Cody and her husband, Tommy Oliver, is a hub for Black couples and singles to have transparent conversations around relationships, parenthood, dating, and more through their app, podcast network, documentaries, and live events. Cody is an NAACP Image Award nominated director and co-creator, and she is building her legacy with a mission of authenticity and love. And in today's episode, she shares how she started forging her unique path in media. She also shares how she and her husband, Tommy, self-funded Black Love Inc., plus the strategic moves she made to pitch Black Love to a network while maintaining ownership. And she also talks about the systems that she has in place to manage a thriving career while being a mom of 3, including twins, and so much more. Hey guys, welcome back. We have an awesome guest in the guest chair today. Cody, welcome back to the Side Hustle Pro guest chair. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, now that you've done a few of your own podcasts, like how does it feel now being back in the guest chair?
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. This is probably the first podcast I ever did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like you know you're a trailblazer, okay? You know that.
Oh, I'm trying out here. So you have been up to so much. I mean, I'm just looking at all that you've done with Black Love and what you're continuing to do. So I, of course, need to give the folks who didn't listen to your first episode, which was so long ago. Matter of fact, I didn't even look what year that was. It was probably 2017, 2018. So give us a peek into your life. Like, when did you start forging your own path?
Yeah. Oh, girl, my own path. I probably started forging my own path after college. But
I know,
because
I was thinking of you when I saw all the Howard Homecoming stuff on my feed. And I was just trying to think, like, I wonder how do you go from a traditional college background at Howard to where you are today in the media industry and starting your own media company?
But not just that, my parents are a doctor and lawyer. So it was definitely a lot of like going against the grain, right?
Of course.
And so how did I get here? I mean, I've always been creative. I've always been, I would say, an artist. Like, I was acting when I was little and singing. And I basically, at some point, I was so into acting. I was on a TV show in 6th grade. Like, I ultimately had to choose between that and athletics because I also played sports year round. And, when you're in high school, you got these two things were taking over my life, and I really had to pick one. And so I picked athletics, and I have zero regrets. But that creative part of me was always there. And so fast forwarding, just summarizing, I even chose my major in college, which was business at first, because I was like, well, I don't want to be like in finance, but everybody needs business majors. So I'll go work somewhere where they're doing creative things and like just be in the room where it happens. Right. And I changed my major to broadcast journalism, but then I graduated, I worked in broadcast journalism, and I hated the news. And then I was like, nah, I really need to be creative. I need to be making up stories, not telling the real ones, because the real ones, they'd be a little too much. And and so so I went to film school at that point. And my parents were
Oh, so
so supportive, but they had no idea what
oh
I was
wow.
doing.
Listen, all of this is so relatable. All of this is like, change a few parts, but so many of us have this
Right.
experience. It's interesting that, especially given the stories that you tell now and help to bring to the big screen, that
Mm-hmm.
you gave up the acting. Did you ever see yourself in front of the camera again?
Yeah, I've thought about it. When I was in college, I took an acting class. When I went to film school, I don't remember if I was ever on camera, but there was lots of opportunities to sort of just collaborate with folks and just like be,
Yes.
on all sides. And so I certainly
Right.
was like, man, I'm moving to LA. Like, is this something I want to think about again? But no, I've never
Okay.
prioritized
Yeah.
it since. I've never made it a thing. And you got to put effort into it.
You do anything that you want to succeed at. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, I always want these kind of episodes where I talk to creatives like yourself to inspire people who are on the fence, who are like, yeah, that is something that's calling me, but how am I going to make money? What's that really look like? So I always
Mm-hmm.
want people to see how it's possible. So for you going to film school, did you have those fears of, will I really make money, or will I just graduate and like have a bunch of screenplays under my belt?
Listen, I'm sure I thought I'm going to be big, like there's
Good,
no
good.
way
You
I
need
could have
to.
done that without feeling that way. Now, look, once I got in the business, it was like, oh my God, there's no way to make money here. But when I went to film school, it was, I was super passionate about storytelling and what was possible,
Hmm.
and I knew that the entertainment business could yield a lot of money, the same as the like
Right,
journalism business, right? Then the broadcast journalism business, but there's a certain level that you have to get to make that money, and everything else pays pennies. And I knew
hmm,
that, and so there was no doubt that going to film school with with who I am and what I'm capable of, and how I like to, how my ideas are so unique. There was no doubt that I would be successful, but it was very hard. It was certainly not I was certainly not successful for a very long time.
and so how did you structure your career in media, both in film school
Mhm.
and once you graduated?
So I had no idea what to expect going into film school. Like, what's the path after that, right? I think I just
Mhm.
thought you go to film school and you get a job, and whether that job is like in a studio or something, or whether that job is on a set, um, I will figure it out. And that is part of it. That is a path. And then
Mhm.
and then there's nuances to like, well, what kind of job yields what I ultimately wanted to be doing, which was producing. So all of this, of course, I learned in film school. I had no idea going in what to expect. And so my expected path was to work for a producer and go rise in the ranks alongside them. So maybe be their assistant and
Okay.
then be a coordinator and then be an executive, and now I'm producing. I think that is what I expected and wanted, what I thought the trajectory was going to be, and what I pursued. I mean, I was very intentional. I did every internship, sometimes two a
Okay.
semester,
Wow.
um, and tried to be really thoughtful about which ones as well would really give me the most relationships and understanding of the business. And I'm proud of that, right? I feel like those experiences are all paying off so much later.
Right.
But there was a time at a certain point where it was just like nothing felt like it was paying off. And so I questioned everything.
Yeah. You have
and
to.
and yeah, I left the business at some point.
What do you mean by that? You went and got a quote unquote real job?
Yes, I had been working at the Los Angeles Film Festival, which was also, well, okay. I got hired as the assistant to the festival director at the Los Angeles Film Festival. She's also a full-time
Yes.
producer, so I was like, this is a win, right? Little did I know when I got hired that Film Independent is a nonprofit organization that runs the Los Angeles Film Festival and the Independent Spirit Awards and year-round labs for filmmakers. And as a
Hmm.
nonprofit, everybody does everything, right? So basically,
Okay.
my film festival gig was like 5 months. Independent Spirit Awards was like 5 months, and then what's left too. So then there's, which really the labs were year round, so they overlapped with all of it, right?
Oh,
So after several years there and many things that didn't go the way I wanted them to go, or projects that I was working on the side that were not coming to fruition. And then having personal stuff. My dad was sick and I was like, man, I don't even have enough money to just like fly back and forth to have the freedom to go home as much as I want to. So I started applying for jobs. You know, I'm very much a safety person, right? So it was like,
same
all right,
here.
I'm going to try to find a job in the film business, but at Discovery, which was in Silver Spring, Maryland. I went to Howard, so that was down the street from me the whole time. And I knew that there was more stability within their structure, or I'm going to go work at a PR firm. I mean, there was nuances to it, right? I was like, what are my skills? I'm an event producer. Right. I'm creative. I can do marketing. So I ended up, this PR firm became an opportunity where I would work with Canon, the camera company. They have a line of cinema cameras that was new at the time. And I was connecting them to filmmakers, but through being their publicist. And so I took that job because it paid regular adult money, and, you know,
consistent money you can rely on.
Yes. And was a new experience and didn't leave me waiting for someone to buy my script or, you know, green light my project. It was a job.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And that was me leaving the business, only to meet Tommy, my husband, 6 months later, and then leave the PR firm.
Dive head first in. So we're going to get to that in a minute, because I always love that story. And what I love about your journey is the fact that there are times when we have to supplement our income. All right. The side hustle is not always going to pay us on the road to profitable business. We have to supplement, and you got to look for that, because don't you find you're able to make more clear-headed decisions when you are not worried about money?
I would say 130%. And everyone's not like that, right? Like, Tommy's not like that. He's really good at making clear-headed decisions all the time. You know, there's that whole,
very much a skill.
And a personality, I think, right? I think some people either are born with it or cultivate it. But I that ain't me. I think it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad that talks about, well, I mean, they talk about a lot of things there, but just the mindset of how can I afford this and not I can't afford. And as an entrepreneur or anyone with a side hustle or just a hustle, right? Like it can easily get so scary when you're like, well, I can't do that. Whatever it is, I can't do that. Instead of having the mentality, how can I do that? Which I hear. I'm even saying it to you, right? I recognize intellectually, I understand it, but that is a muscle that people build.
It absolutely is a muscle. So I'm glad you said that too, muscle, because a lot of times we talk about mindset on this show and the mindset shifts we need to make. Even today, I had a call with my website designer, and I was saying, instead of saying I'm behind, I've been starting to say I'm catching up. It's so important to shift your language to yourself, because you feel so bad about yourself when you say certain things. But it is a muscle. You don't wake up and it's like, oh, I put on this new mindset now. So muscle is probably a better word to use, like building the muscle. So talk to us about
another good one. Instead of saying sorry for my delay, like I'm horrible with emails in life right now. Sorry for my delay is like constant. I heard on a podcast, thanks for your patience.
Yes. Oh, I love thanks for your patience. Or you know what I love? I love coming back after weeks without further ado. I love coming back with that. They're looking at me sideways, like I'm like, hey guys, without further ado, here it is.
Right. Yep. I love that. I love that. It's real.
Tell us briefly, how did you go from working in Silver Spring now to meeting Tommy and starting Black Glove?
Yeah, so so the PR firm was here in LA. So I was
Okay.
working in LA, and my job was to go to film festivals and try to
Hmm.
entice filmmakers to use Canon. And I had the opportunity to gift or lend them cameras for free for their projects. So
Right.
we went to Sundance, we went to South by Southwest, we went to other like trade shows. So the Toronto Film Festival was where I met Tommy. We were activating there with our equipment and all that stuff in a daytime lounge where the filmmakers would come in, and that's where we met. And we started dating very quickly. We got engaged after 6 months, but even before then. So we met
Yeah.
September 9th, 2013. By mid-October, we talked about Black love, maybe even earlier than
Uh-huh.
that. I was like, I have this idea that I've been thinking about, and I don't know if it's a documentary, because at that time, documentaries were not on my radar. Like I knew that they existed, but I thought they were boring and
Yep.
like, who does that? And this
Yep.
isn't science. So I talked to him about it, and he was really excited by it. And he was like, let's do it. Like, let's go. And that's how it started. We convinced Canon to give him a camera loan because he was a filmmaker that we met at the Toronto Film Festival. We convinced
Love
Canon to give
it.
him a camera loan by January,
Mhm.
and we started shooting 1 year after we met.
I love that. So now you guys just finished your last season,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, if you guys want to hear more about the journey of growing that, you can go back to Cody's very first episode. I'll link to it. But I'm interested to know now, looking back, Black Love was such an impactful journey, right? It's such a,
Mm-hmm.
it's just done so much, showcased so many different stories. We've seen so many couples, some we know, some we don't. What would you tell yourself now, knowing what you know? What would you tell yourself at the beginning of that journey?
You
Yeah.
know, the beginning was long before I met Tommy. And I don't like the Black love journey has been so perfect in a lot of ways because it was something that had been on my heart for a long time, and I didn't know exactly what it was. Like back in
Right.
2008, I did not know. I thought it was a coffee table book. And I thought about documentary. Like I definitely thought about it and just ruled it out.
Right.
But I knew I wanted to create a place where Black love stories live. And so at every stage, that has been the central goal. And so when it was a coffee table book, and I went and did interviews with couples in Chicago because my cousin was from there. She was like, I know a lot of couples. We just went and took pictures and
Okay.
did audio interviews in 2008. I don't regret anything about that journey, that time. All of it helped me develop the muscle of interviewing couples and what did I want to know,
Right.
and what did they say that then informed my next conversation. And then meeting Tommy and deciding to do it as a documentary. And then a few things changed in the landscape with the OJ doc and Making a Murderer, which like both of them are very dark. But like the fact is people were watching docu-series. And it was like,
Uh,
oh, wait, we can do that. And so the choice to pivot, and then it ending up at OWN, which was always my first choice for it. It being at OWN, and then the reception once it was on air, like the Black love specific journey has been really positive,
yeah.
even in its negativity. Even when it wasn't any of those things, it was a doc that we were shooting and we were trying to get grants and people were like, no, right? And people were questioning it. It's still nothing I would change about that journey, because it also led to us even owning it. I don't know that we would have pursued the ownership. I don't know that we would have kept shooting it ourselves the way that we
Hmm.
did, so that by the time we pitched it, it was a show. It wasn't just a pitch on a piece of paper. It was a
Okay.
show with
It
a
was actual.
whole first episode cut already. And so that gave us more leverage.
When you talk about the ownership piece, that's also really
Mm-hmm.
unique as well. Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
end up on OWN, but then you're self-funded and you own it? Like, tell us a little bit more about what does this all mean, like in
Yeah.
the granular sense?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, people will have a great idea and
Yep.
maybe film enough to create a sizzle. And even the sizzle doesn't have to be your show. It doesn't even have to be the exact subject meaning like person, but you want to create like a tone reel, something that somebody can get
Right.
behind and say, okay, I want to pay for you to make whatever. I'm going to pay for you to make one episode so we can then decide if we want to do it. Or, hey, I love that and I want to pay for you to create this show, scripted, unscripted, whatever it is. And then they own it because they paid for it. That's what's typical. And even the way we did it, it could be, they could make a case for like, well, we're now distributing it for you, and we're going to pay for future seasons, and we're paying your costs, so we own it now. But so the difference was that we were like, no, we've already done so much. We've already done the entire first season. At that point, we gave them episode 1 a sizzle that represented the whole season and a detailed written treatment. At that point, we gave them that, but we had 50, 60 interviews. We were ready for season 2 at that point.
Wow. So you had filmed complete interviews. Nice.
Complete. And we had filmed. Yeah, that's the thing. To your point, like people will go in and they'll like, I got what I need for this sizzle, so I'm out. We've talked to people for hours. Wow. So we had all of that content.
So you negotiated, of course, the ownership of your intellectual property.
Yes. And at a lower fee. Most people aren't willing to do that, right? You want to make your sizzle or write your script or whatever it is and say, here, pay me a whole bunch of money for this. And I'm the creator, but you own it. And in our case, it was like, okay, well, OWN's looking at us as any network would. And they're like, okay, you can own it, but we're going to pay you less for it because we're not seeing the upside. We're getting, we can get ad revenue against it, but we can't put it on our network for 15, 20 years. We can put it on our network for the term that you give us. So that was the difference. And as a result, it meant that the future episodes, future seasons were more valuable to them because they had negotiated a lower license fee to license the show. And in order for them to continue to get it, we would have to renegotiate all the time. So it was just a different approach.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So what do you see happening with the inventory of just awesome seasons, content, all of that rich content, if they weren't to, continue licensing it?
Well, the thing about it is that us licensing it to them rather than them owning it allowed us to license it elsewhere. So it is on Discovery Plus. It's on Hulu. It's on, I think it's on Amazon Prime, as well as OWN. And we also retained the right to stream it on our Black Love Plus app, which is a free app.
Nice.
That you can get on your phone, on your TV, your Roku, your Android, whatever you got. And there's a lot of other shows, as you were mentioning earlier, Couch Conversations, which last season was hosted by Kevin and Melissa Fredericks, and the previous season was Tav and Chance Brown, and several other shows.
Yes, I have been tuning into Couch Conversations for sure. Love that one.
We have a podcast network as well, and one of our most popular shows is Black Love, the Interviews. So where you watch OWN or you watch the docuseries and you see a 42-minute episode where any one couple is in there for maximum 8 minutes. 8 minutes maximum per episode. When you listen to Black Love, the Interviews, you're listening to an hour of Viola Davis and Julius Tennant. Or Brian Tamia, or, you're listening to the entire conversation that we had with them.
Yes. Now that I love, because there are times I'm like, I want more of this couple. Just cut everyone else. I want to hear from them.
Well, now you got it.
There's always that one, that story that you resonate with the most. So,
and that was important to me. Yeah. That was super important to me because I fell in love with the couples. I fell in love with like, man, I wish we could tell that one story about when they went on their first date and this happened, but you don't have time in a TV show.
Yeah.
So it was important to me to be able to share that with people.
Hey, while you're listening to this podcast, you're probably doing something else too, right? You're probably driving or cooking, maybe even doing a load of laundry. So think about it. While you're engaging with your clients, your listeners, or your customers, they are probably doing something else too, which makes growing conversations beyond that initial moment pretty challenging. Well, HubSpot, which is a CRM, customer relationship management tool, helps you go beyond the moment by managing your relationships with customers. They do this by connecting you and your teams, giving you access to the exact same data, and helping you see the full customer picture. You can see what motivates them, what their expectations are, and how you can really exceed their expectations. With powerful tools that connect marketing, sales, operations, and service, HubSpot powerful CRM platform powers you and your teams to transform customer moments into extraordinary customer experiences. Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com. You hear that? That is the sound of another sale on Shopify, the e-commerce platform with everything you need to run a successful online business. I use Shopify to sell my Side Hustle Pro merch over on sidehustleshop.co. And if you have a signature gold Side Hustle Pro mug, then it came from my Shopify store. I love Shopify because Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling gold mugs or candles, start selling with Shopify and join the platform, simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you can customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that will keep them coming back. Shopify covers all the sales channels to successfully grow your business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is here to help you succeed every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify, and you can too. This podcast actually started as a side hustle, as you know, and it's now my full-time job, and running my shop on Shopify helps make this possible. When you're ready to take your idea to the world, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Now it's your turn to try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. This is possibility powered by Shopify. So sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/hustlepro. Go to shopify.com/hustlepro to start selling online today. Shopify.com/hustlepro. Also interested, of course, in the financial piece of this. So how do you fund this? Again, is it a thing where you guys are working full-time jobs, or how are you funding this without giving away ownership, taking on investment?
Yeah. So when we started, I wouldn't say full-time jobs because we were in the film business. So when we started, Tommy had just produced a movie in 2014 called The Perfect Guy, which was a Sony movie. It was a nice little check for a 30-year-old at the time. And then we produced an indie film, which was not a nice little check, but it was fun. And we did that at the end of 2014. And then I don't remember everything, but we took jobs, right? Like film related jobs. So they were,
film jobs,
a couple months here and there. And that's what took us through. Or Tommy, he's also a writer. So he might write a script that he gets paid for, and they maybe pay for rewrites, et cetera, et cetera. All of that was happening. All of that was being cobbled together to create a life.
Got it.
I didn't even have health insurance when I got pregnant in 2016. I did not have health insurance.
Oh my God, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, I got it. I got health insurance once I got pregnant. But going into that, like that's where we were just like hustling. And
you're like, oh God, we gotta,
yes,
gotta get some things together.
They say babies bring blessings. So in 2016, that's also when we licensed the show to own. Like we were already making it. We licensed it to own by October. I think September was really when the conversation started picking up. He was born October 4th.
Wow.
So, went from no health insurance to a whole show. Yeah.
Light at the end of the tunnel. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't there something about that first baby? Like you might have some, especially as entrepreneurs, that first baby as entrepreneurs, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. It's
we gotta
so
get
scary.
some things together. Yeah. We can have a whole other, maybe I need to, we need to have a whole other mama's conversation about that. But I
Yeah.
am so glad you mentioned that though, because is it kind of a blessing to work in the film industry? Because yeah, usually on the show we're talking about 9 to 5s, which are more of a
Mhm.
corporate structure. But
Mhm.
then yeah, it's like a gift and a curse, or a benefit and sometimes a hindrance of being able to
Mhm.
work in an industry that's so flexible that you could work for a few months, get a
Yeah.
if it's a good job, bunch of cash, and then not work for a bit to work on your own project, but you have that cash.
Yeah. That's I don't know that I would compare the two, right? Because there's
Hmm.
something about
Yeah.
knowing month after month
Yeah.
there's a check coming and there's
Right.
benefits that come with that. And then there's something
Hmm.
about, like I said, the Perfect Guy, the film that he worked on, it was a
Yeah.
substantial amount of money for, let's say,
Yeah.
3 months of work, right? Most people might make
Uh-huh.
that, whatever it was, in a year or something.
Right.
But in the film business, you don't know when that next job is coming.
That's true. That's fair. So it's just,
Yeah,
different perspectives and different ways to make a living,
absolutely.
so to speak, to make your dream happen. What are you working on now? So you have other creative projects going on. You have a podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that and
Oh, girl.
how that all came to be. Yeah.
So, we have been doing most of the things I'm about to say for years, but obviously the show, first off, takes a lot of my time and energy. Tommy and
Of
I
course.
created an intimate environment where it's just the two of us with the couple. So there's no other crew. From the beginning, like, hey, my name's Codie Elaine Oliver, and we have this show, and we want to interview you. It was always me because we wanted to start an intimate relationship with the couples as early as possible. So we're not talking about publicists and managers. Sometimes, yes,
Right.
but we just tried at every step to create a closeness. But
Yes.
that took a lot of time and energy. And so we have, in the process of all of that, we launched the Black Love Summit in 2018, now going into its 5th year. We launched blacklove.com 2018. Still, like, every time I say that, I'm like, we did those at the same time. I was also having twins in November 2018, and we launched those
This
things
is
in
wild.
October.
Very, very wild to me. Like, you're like
Wild. Me too,
a
girl.
superhero to me. Yeah.
I appreciate it, but I don't know. I don't
Yes.
know how it happens. And so we've been doing those things for 5 years. We have year-round events. So once the pandemic happened, we started doing virtual events as well. We did a women's wellness retreat that we'll bring back in 2023.
Oh, wow.
And we try to be a part of man, cultural moments isn't the right way to say it, because, like, we try to be a part of giving our community tools and information in the only ways that we know how, right? Through transparency and listening to one another. And so, for instance, during the pandemic, we did a town hall with various doctors all over the country to give people insight on, like, what questions do you have about COVID? Like, this was at a time when no one really knew what was going on. And we had, ER doctors, and, like, we had people really giving tools and tips and insights and answering direct questions when it felt like we're just reading articles that don't actually pertain to us because I didn't get my question answered. We had lives with midwives so that women who were having babies in hospitals and out of hospitals could understand what it means to feel prepared. So those are the things that we do. Black maternal health is super important, but to me and to our brand. But the pillars that have always remained important from the beginning, but especially with the launch of blacklove.com, romantic relationships and dating, parenthood, physical and mental health, entrepreneurship, and community. I'm trying to make sure I'm not leaving anything out. So we try to make sure that we're hitting those things every step. And so we launched the streaming service where we have all of these series that we created, from a show called Doula Dads to Couch Conversations to all of our summits are there. And we also have a podcast network with several podcasts that range from, if you remember, Kariga and Felicia Bailey, who were on Black Love season 5, I want to say, who their first daughter transitioned the day she was born. So they
Wow.
became angel parents, and they have a
Mm-hmm.
podcast on our podcast network talking about grief and love. We have another podcast on the network that is a couple who's been together over 30 years. They are life coaches and dating coaches, the Amazing Clarks, and they talk about dating and marriage and life and really just thriving from their unique vantage point. And then I am the host of a podcast called My New BFF, where I interview people who basically that I want to get to know. I interview people who I want to get beyond whatever they're known for. So if they're a singer, like Mickey Guyton, who's a country singer, like what else? Like, how'd you get here? What's your journey? Nina Westbrook, who's a UCLA basketball player. She's married to Russell Westbrook. She's also a marriage and family therapist. Like, these are people where I see them on Instagram and I'm like, girl,
yes,
tell me.
I know, I follow her on Instagram, and I absolutely love her, and I don't know her, but I would want to talk to her too.
Same. I was like, I'm a fan, and you have twins, and so do I. Can we talk?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then I host the Mama's Den with 3 other mamas. And
I've been seeing your awesome content on IG. And how do you, as you're planning out the Black Love platform, how do you decide which ideas to go after so that you are not doing too many things at once?
Girl, that's a good question. I don't think we decide that very well at all. I mean, for reals, I would say that it's something we're not great at, right? Like for the first couple of years, while I was editing, like producing, directing, editing the show, Tommy produces, and he's very hands-on in the production phase, and then giving notes on cuts. But I'm in the thick of this thing for 8 months at a time. So while we were in that phase, he would very much drive we need a podcast network, we need an app, we need to do this, and they were always great ideas. And so I would be like, okay. And then we weren't necessarily set up to continue whatever it was. So it would become very stressful. Obviously, we have continued, and I'm grateful for it, but it's been very stressful at times, where that's a conversation now is how do I in particular not take on too much? Because I do love, so I mean, not to blame him. I was just using him as an example because he's very entrepreneurial. His background is economics and business and film. So he's running with these big ideas. And then for me, it's I want to do this town hall, and I want to, which I think ended up being the same time as the U Retreat or that year, or the summit, I want to host this podcast. I want to host that podcast. Oh, wait, now we have to continue doing those things. Oh, wait, now we have to get people to sponsor them and buy into them. And so
you need a whole workflow behind each thing.
Yeah. And then, as you know, as a mom, the motherhood journey comes in these phases where you might think, briefly for me, you might think oh, we're in a pattern, we're in a routine. I do this, I do that, I drop this.
Every time you get into one,
is gone. And then you look up and I'm like, how did I get here with all these responsibilities and people looking at me so what's next? People from 3 to 50 are looking at me what are we doing?
Right. It's you are the captain of many, many ships. And let's touch on the motherhood piece for a bit, because you guys, we tried to do this interview a couple of times, and we kept having to reschedule either me or Cody. And it's funny, the last time that we rescheduled, I told my assistant, I was like, she has 3 kids, and that was it. That's all I needed to say. She was like, I can't even imagine. She has 2. I have 1, and we were like, I can't even imagine. It's nothing negative about it. It's just an understanding that you have when you become a mom. Stuff comes up, all right? Every day you wake up, you literally do not know what is going to happen. You might go into their room, and all of a sudden they're congested. It's where did this come from? Why are you sick? You got to go to school.
Right.
You got to get out of here. I got stuff to do. Oh my gosh. So what systems or people have you put into your life to help you so that you can still go after your dreams?
Yeah. So I have a nanny who I love, who is the key to everything.
Yes.
I want her to live with us. I want her to never leave.
How did you
ever.
find her?
Listen, I'm gonna just go on and plug care.com. Okay.
Okay.
They should give you some money. They should give me some money. But I actually have found all of my caregivers on care.com.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
of course, there's word of mouth too. I would, but
Mm-hmm.
all of the long term folks, or I would say two out of
Yeah.
three, 2 out of 3 of the
Yeah.
long term people have come from
Mm-hmm.
care.com.
Okay.
And so a lot of people are like, oh, I don't, I'm nervous to meet strangers. And da-da-da. I always tell moms, like, you can have somebody come in your house and you're there. Like, nobody's telling
Yeah.
you to leave on day one. Like,
Right.
be there,
Right.
watch them,
Yep.
learn them. But yeah, so that's how we found each other. And funny enough, this might be a lesson for like any job interview.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first resume this particular year. Obviously, like
Oh,
she's been
wow.
working with us for almost 2 years. So this was just 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. She was the first resume that came through. She
Mm-hmm.
was super professional, which like it isn't always the case of like nannies and babysitters, right? There, it's just a different I don't know, different mindset. She was
Yep.
super professional, and I was like, "There's no way it's the first one. Like, I have to interview more people. Like,
Right.
there's no
Right.
way." And Tommy was like, "Listen, if she's the one, she's the one." And so, no regrets. Best thing that's ever
I
happened to
love to
me.
hear that. You're going to make me try care.com again because, yeah, I wasn't as lucky. And
Oh yeah,
it can be a little bit
but I've
daunting.
met some before. Like, I mean, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest. I know. I think it's safe space. I mean, I care about, brown women and young
Mm-hmm.
women.
Yes.
Everybody's different. Some people like a grandmother type. I like somebody who's gonna keep up with these kids. No disrespect to the grandmothers. I like somebody who's gonna jump around, run around with them. So who's gonna feel like a big sister type. That was like my
okay.
mentality when looking.
Uh-huh.
And so I go in and I weed out based on melanin, and
Yep.
and then
Yes.
I just try to reach out to a bunch of people
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
do, I've done phone interviews, I've done Zoom interviews, and then in person and all of that. So it's a process. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's hiring
people
for your
sucks.
life. Hiring for your life is
Yeah.
something that we all got to get better about. I talked about that
Yeah.
on a solo episode about how I just really that was brought to my attention actually reading Rachel Rogers' book. But yeah, it's like
Mhm.
you can't get good at hiring for your business if you aren't yet good at hiring for your life. Because what's more important than who's taking care of your kids and who's going to be in your home doing these different things? Like that's really, really important. So
Yeah.
it's a learning curve and something that we can all stretch our muscle on, and it will actually help
Yeah.
us in our side hustles
Yeah.
and in our business.
Agreed.
And then also help us to go after our goals. Because I was listening to an interview, I think it was with Kerry Washington last night, and she just talks about how, I forget the quote she said, but she talked about how she saw a quote that, like you don't have to choose between being a mom and having this awesome career. And she had put that on her vision board one year. But I was just reminded of how I know so many of us now who we have big dreams, big goals, and we're going after them. It's like, it's not one or the other. But we still do have to talk about the sacrifices that come with that, and the juggling. So what has that been like for you in terms of, is it losing sleep? Is it maybe going after less things that you want to go after? Like, how have you found adjusting to going after both of those things?
I'm going to say, weirdly, there's very little that I don't go after. And I don't even think I'm like that ambitious.
Yeah.
I would
say you're pretty ambitious.
I'm not saying that I'm not. I'm just saying that, like, when something comes my way, when an opportunity comes my way, or when there's something that I want, I'll start to plant so if there's something I want, I'll plant the seeds, right? If there's something that comes my way and I'm like, man, I want to do that. Or maybe what it is right now my life is set up in a way that I can do that. Partially because of Erica is her name. And so but I understand what it has been like when I didn't have that same flexibility. Right.
Okay.
And so I heard a quote last year that is, you can have it all, but you can't do it all. And that really stuck with me because I do believe in that, even if I didn't have the words for it until I heard this quote. But the lesson is like, you got to figure out how to outsource to people. whether that is housekeeping, nanny, gardener, even HR for your business, whether that is
Right.
paying someone, right? We're talking about side hustles, whether that is paying someone to build that website that you don't really know how to build, but you're trying
Right.
because you learned on Nikayla's podcast that it's easy to learn Squarespace. For some of us, it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's not. But the point is, like, don't beat yourself up over it. If you know that, like, spending this little bit of money to get that thing done is going to make your life easier and better and move faster, those are the like things that we have to think through. How will this help me? Is this the right investment for me, in order to have the life we want?
What we spend our money on, like those early investments, it not only does it pay off, but also it starts to train us to invest in our business like a real investor, like to really look at what we're spending and say, all right, I would rather put this $100 towards hiring someone on Fiverr to do this thing for me, you know, but we just got to remember to not also spend another 100 on Amazon. Like we actually have to shift the allocation.
It's like knowing that the decision matters, right? It doesn't mean feel guilty because you bought the shoes or the whatever, but it means that if you're looking at the shoes, you're like, dang, I could have done this, and then I wouldn't be stressed right now trying to build this website at 2 a.m. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
having this clear picture of like what needs to happen,
what the choices that you make mean.
Right. Before we get into the lightning round, another thing you said I really wanted to touch on, which is this idea of always being asked what's next, right? And I used to do that, and I've really, stopped and tried to remember not to in the last few years, because nothing needs to be next. And I say that in terms of, let me know how you feel about this, but in your career thus far, a lot of things that you've done and what you're currently doing, you could have never pictured. So if you try to tell people what's next, like that, it's not even going to be what's next because what's next, you probably can't even visualize right now. You know what I mean? Like if you're truly working towards this life that you're going to be leading. So I want to just affirm you in that and say, like, I believe in you. I believe that you're walking already in your calling, and that, no matter what you do, like individually, it might look like, oh, it's just this, or, oh, it's just that, but it's actually way bigger than that. As a fellow podcaster, who still struggles with, oh, I have a podcast. Like how that still sounds so like, but it's bigger than that.
You are the original podcaster, okay? You have helped a lot of people with this podcast, like tremendously. And I have seen it, but also just knowing it in the early, I'm going to say the early stage, like when we did that interview, I think you were still 100.
Oh, it was the early stage. Early,
but you were still deep.
Stages.
You were still deep,
You got to scroll all the way back. Yep. So thank you for that. So now we're going to jump into a quick lightning round. Just answer the first thing that comes to mind. No Google, no celebrities. All right.
Okay.
All right. So number 1, what is a resource that has helped you in your business that you can share with the Side Hustle Pro audience? Like I said, no Google.
My assistant.
And how did you find your assistant?
Oh, good question. Word of mouth.
Number 2, who is a Black woman entrepreneur that you would switch places with for a day, non-celebrity, and why?
For a day, Morgan DeBon.
Yeah. And why?
Because of what she's built, because she has, I did not come into this thing with anybody's business degree or MBA. And so to sort of step into her world where she has this purview that I don't, would be fascinating and empowering.
Number 3, what's a non-negotiable part of your day?
Coffee.
Number 4, what is a personal habit about you that you think contributes to your success?
I'm going to say my friendliness, my engagement with people.
And then finally, number 5, tell us, what is your parting advice these days for fellow women side hustlers who want to be their own boss but are scared to lose a steady paycheck?
Ooh, I was scared too. Wait, that's not it. That's not advice.
Yeah.
It's okay to be afraid, but if you know that this is what you're supposed to be doing, you have to give it a shot.
Love that. Love that. And with that, thank you so much for being in the guest chair. Where can people connect with you and all of your many projects after this episode?
So many. I would say Instagram is great. I am Codieco, Codieco. I don't do enough sharing about my business stuff on Codieco. So go to Black Love, at Black Love,
Yes.
which is our Instagram. Our
Yes.
website is blacklove.com. It is me. It is a part of my being, everything that we put out over there. So I would say those are the best places to find me.
And we will link to those in the show notes, you guys. And with that, there you have it.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other side hustlers just like you to find the show. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at Side Hustle Pro. Plus, sign up for my 6-bullet Saturday newsletter at sidehustlepro.co/newsletter. When you sign up, you will receive weekly nuggets from me, including what I'm up to, personal lessons, and my business tip of the week. Again, that's sidehustlepro.co/newsletter to sign up. Talk to you soon.